It's like 30, it's actually 30 degrees. And you might think, so what? We'll just do a little video here. That's a up and coming project, I think. So yeah, it's 29 degrees, 0.8, so nearly 30 degrees. That one there says 30 degrees. And then down there says 26 degrees. Day 3, and I pivoted. I decided to go for some Perspex. So it actually gives you instructions on how to cut it. You've got to score it between 5 and 10 times. It's actually a little bit too thin. So I'm going to double it up. So we're going to make 2 bits. We want to make it fairly big, not too big. These ones are 90 by 90. So we'll make it 130 by 130. We will use this. How are we doing? We're good? We're good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Feels like I should have done something else. Welcome back, watchers, Rin Furniture watchers, Rin watchers, Rinners, Rinse. How about that as a name? You are Rinse. I'm not saying that you are unclean in any way. You simply watch my videos. Thank you very much for joining me again this week. We are continuing with our gaudy, silly, maniacal attempt at making some finger joints for this one project. We've already got the basic shape done. I realized as I was putting this video together that I wasn't kind of explaining what I was doing or why I was doing it. So I'm just going to quickly show you my idea. This here is the dummy run of what I'm attempting to do, and the problem is I want to connect these two pieces together, but I don't want to use screws. So how can I get around that? Well, my idea essentially is to make a series of slots, cut a series of slots, and then with the other piece put those slots in here, and then essentially make it like that. So essentially what I'm trying to do is making sure that this slot and then this slot, this slot and this slot all have an equal distance. This distance here, this distance here, this distance here is the same as this distance here, with a little bit of wiggle room, because obviously if they're absolutely bang on, it's going to be very difficult to get that in there, and if they're loose, then it's going to be very difficult to glue it all together and make it look nice. We now just need to get a plate made for this router, so we can get the fingers coming together nice and accurately. So the first thing that we've got to do is, what is the first thing that I do? We mark out a sheet of Perspex or acrylic or Lexan. Okay, so there are the two there. Now we need to score it. 5 points. That was a very good score. 5 points. If you're wondering why I've only got a very small amount on the knife, if you've ever slipped using a knife and then cut your finger, it's pretty horrible. Having blood go everywhere is not the greatest. This stuff is quite thick, so I did have to score it quite a few times, a lot more than the instructions said. Oops. What? Wow. Okay, let's see if we can break it. No. Oh. Well, we broke it. We broke it all the way down to here. Surprisingly, I can't cut through this part. Scoring. You know what? Let's just get a fresh blade. I grabbed a new blade to make the process go quicker. Ta-da! Let's cut more out. Do 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 do. Some backing music. Oh. So that is that. I can now put these holes in here. I measured it out to get it to fall right in the middle. We need a... This stuff is really easy to drill, and you can actually push that drill through way too quickly. Whenever I get the opportunity, I like to use this hole punch. It's like an automatic hole punch. Really good tool. So a couple of things about drilling this stuff. So when I was drilling this one, I don't know if you probably can't see that one there, but that one there blew out because I was just pushing down too hard and the speed was too high. So I'm just going to do these ones nice and slow. Thankfully, the splitting of that perspex was not in a crucial area, but this perspex I had to do twice because I needed to get the thickness. The single thickness perspex felt a little bit too flimsy, so I doubled it up. And then did a test fit on the router. These router holes for this Makita cordless router, you can only put it in one orientation. You cannot twist it, turn it 90, 180 to 70 degrees at all. It has to go in that particular orientation, and I didn't know that, so I ended up drilling new holes. And then they're tight, but they're in. There is a shape on the inside of the router base that I used as a bit of a template, so I knew where to drop everything. Like I said before, it actually has to be a particular orientation, and I actually ended up doing one that fit, and then when I went to the second one, well, it didn't fit, and it's pretty hard to show that, but as essentially I ended up having to widen all of the holes. It didn't matter too much because obviously they're going to be stuck together, but this is why it took so long. I would drill those holes, set it up in place on the router, and then tighten the holes, and when they didn't fit, take it all off, re-drill them. I got a bit annoyed and I shoved the drill down one of the holes while it was stuck to the base. I think I might have accidentally drilled out a part of the hole on this router base. Well, it looks like we have a sickness in the house, and that probably means I am very close to being in the same situation, because I have felt rotten all week. So we're going to make this side. I do some chamfers on here. I've got some really cheap chamfering countersink bits that work really great in perspex but terrible in wood. There are a variety of different types of chamfering tools. I only have these ones. I wish I had better ones, but I can't seem to find them. And of course they're expensive. I don't want to spend too much money on them. Well, whoever said making this was easy, because it's not. None of this stuff fits, and every time it does fit, I then have to drill out more precision here is a lot more than I was expecting. I also had to try different screws. This router base actually came with some screws, so I used those, but I did go to the hardware store and I bought probably about 4 or 5 different sized screws to see if I could get ones that match, because trying to find screws for specifically a power tool can be a little bit tricky. All of these Makita tools are in metric, so that's really great. One of those examples is actually the screw where the belt hook goes into on this Makita drill. Obviously there's a screw hole for this side, that's also in metric, and I point that out because in New Zealand we don't have a great range of imperial screws at sort of an average hardware store. You have to go a little bit further afield. Still, finding stuff that suits an imperial is a little bit tricky, so thankfully we're basically in metric for this router. That in order for this to work, I need to keep it clean. Edges are sharp. So in order for this to work, that's got to line up with that, and then howdy doody, all of this goes together on here. Put those 4 screws in, and then I screw it together one more time. I've actually screwed it together in this video probably 5 or 6 times maybe. Then I plunged the router into the perspex to essentially make the hole, and I had to use my respirator because perspex is basically plastic, and of course it can get very toxic. I used the plastic relief tool, one of these. They're very good for 3D prints. They're also good for metal. This is not a metal one, this is a plastic, basically plastic and perspex. You probably noticed that I'm not wearing glasses. I have recently had cataract surgery, so that eye is still healing, but this eye, obviously I normally wear glasses. Now I've decided to use contact lenses in, so it means that I don't have glasses, and my vision's actually better with contact lenses. I don't quite know why, but I'll probably switch between contact lenses and normal glasses over the little next couple of months, so you see me wear glasses on one and contacts in the other. I'm like Superman. My gosh, it's hot in here. Now we're not even close to getting this finished. Now I could use these screws, but it requires me to cut them, and I can't be bothered because I'm lazy, I'm human garbage, and I would prefer not to. Why did I buy them, you say? And you do say that to me, and I don't give a proper answer. I'm just going to put them in there and forget about them. Here we go. We have a working somehow. So here we go. This is the base plate. It took me nearly 4 hours to make a base plate. How terrible is that? This is not the piece of wood, but basically this is going to go on thus, and then what this is going to be made out of, well, we could use this. I've got obviously way more of this stuff, but I would have to cut it precisely. I mean, they're only going to be, it's 3 mil. How thick is this? Get my leg caught and then I'll fall over. I moved everything today. I got rid of the little thing that was in the corner there. Oh, that's right, it's got to be 20 by 20. Would be 7 pieces minus 1 mil. how can I get -1 mil? Perspex would be smoother. The other thing I could do is I could sand it down. We'll come up with a combination of either wood, Perspex. Ideally, the best option would actually be 3D printing it, because have a bit more control over what it's going to look like, well, how it's going to perform. So it's 4 o'clock now. It is the end of the day. I am going to have a shower and probably just lie in bed all night. I will come back to this possibly next week, and that actually gives me time to 3D print this. I might 3D print both the block and the new base. Anyway, we will see you next week. Even though it took me 4 hours to make this, you can tell by this I haven't actually used it, and I'll explain why. So the original idea was to take this was going to go on the router itself, and then essentially take this, put it on there, and then what we can do is then run this through here, and thus cutting this hole, and then jump over and cut this hole. Problem that I had was once I put this in here, I'm basically fixed, and if it was wrong, then I basically have to do it again. So I abandoned that idea. The next option was to jump to a 3D print. Now, I'm not going to get into the 3D printing today because, to be honest, it was actually a little bit more complicated. I had to do a few different versions, and I thought I'd dedicate some time next week to show you exactly what I did, because 3D printing things are actually quite a good way for making jigs, but you kind of have to be good at designing things, and I'm not that good. So we'll pick up again next week. Yeah, one episode, 4 hours to essentially make 2 pieces of Perspex cutting holes, which I didn't even really use. So what can you do? Next week we will be taking a look at doing the 3D printing. G'day. Oh my god, my finger. And now it has obviously moved, and we'll also attempt to make some fingers in these pieces of wood. Today's actually my day off. Very nice day today. I could just put a hat on. Do I have a hat to put on? Which doesn't quite work. Oh, this one's better. Last week I actually used footage of next week's episode because I got them around the wrong way. That's why you probably never saw the preview of last week and this week, but you'll see next week's preview in this one. Thank you very much for bearing with me. I really appreciate you watching and giving those videos a like. So we'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll get one step closer to getting this armrest table finished.